The room went silent after Lily's small hands tightened the last bolt and she quietly stepped back. For a moment, no one moved, as if the entire floor of engineers was holding its breath. Then, with a skeptical shake of his head, the chief engineer turned the ignition. A deep, steady roar filled the hall as the Rolls-Royce engine came to life, yet perfectly balanced, flawless in its rhythm. The sound echoed against the glass walls of the Chicago headquarters. The same men who had laughed minutes ago now stared in disbelief, their jaws slack, their confidence shaken. Robert Hayes, still in his janitor's uniform, looked at his daughter with tears blurring his vision. He had always known Lily was brighter, smarter than most kids her age, but this was different. She had done what dozens of trained experts from across the world couldn't. He felt his chest swell with pride, but also fear. Would they respect her, or ridicule her even more now? Yet as he looked around, he saw no more mocking smiles, only stunned admiration, mixed with a tinge of shame. The chief engineer, a tall man with graying hair and a reputation for being sharp, stepped forward slowly. His voice trembled with curiosity as he asked, "How broken bar? How did you even see that?" Lily hesitated, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She wasn't used to all these eyes on her. "It was simple," she said finally, her voice soft but steady. "Everyone was looking at the data, at the big systems. But machine has a broken bar. They usually tell you what's wrong if you listen carefully." Her words struck harder than she realized, cutting through the egos in the room. The younger engineers exchanged glances, embarrassed that they had overlooked something so basic. One of them whispered under his breath, "She's right. We got lost in the math." Another nodded reluctantly, admitting, "She caught it faster than I ever could." The realization spread like a quiet wave. This wasn't luck, this was skill. A 15-year-old girl from Chicago, the daughter of a janitor, had outsmarted the finest technical minds in the country. For the first time that day, silence wasn't filled with arrogancy, it was filled with respect. Robert gently placed his hand on Lily's shoulder, his voice thick with emotion. "You just showed them all, kiddo," he whispered, his pride overflowing. Lily smiled up at him, her cheeks flushed red from both nerves and joy. For her, this wasn't about proving anything to the experts, it was about the thrill of solving a puzzle, of understanding the language of machines. She had always felt a special connection to engines, to the way they hummed and whispered when something wasn't right. Today, the world had finally seen what her father always knew. News of the event spread beyond the building before the day was over. Rumors of a teenager fixing a Rolls-Royce engine circulated through Chicago's engineering community like wildfire. Journalists called it the miracle, while professors from nearby universities wondered aloud who this girl was and how she had developed such instincts. Within a week, the story reached national headline as a janitor's daughter outsmarts experts. Some dismissed it as exaggeration, but those who had been in the room knew the truth. They had witnessed a brilliance that couldn't be explained away. As the sun dipped below the Chicago skyline that evening, Robert and Lily walked out of the building side by side. The busy streets hummed with the usual rush of traffic and chatter, but for them, everything felt different. Robert no longer saw himself as just a janitor, he was the father of a girl who had changed the way people thought about genius. And Lily? She felt lighter than ever, carrying the quiet confidence of someone who had been underestimated and had proved the world wrong with nothing but her mind. For the first time in history, a Rolls-Royce engine in Chicago wasn't remembered for its luxury or power. It was remembered for the miracle of a 15-year-old girl who dared to see what no one else could. and though the experts went back to their labs and theories, they would never forget the day the janitor's daughter listened to the machinea and made it sing again. The engine's roar filled the vast Chicago workshop, echoing off the steel walls as if it were alive again. Everyone froze, unable to believe what they were hearing. Minutes earlier, the world-class engineers had been convinced the machine was finished, unsalvageable despite their expertise. Yet, here it was, running smoother than it ever had, and the person who made it happen was not one of them. It was Lily, the janitor's 15-year-old daughter, who had quietly bent over the parts and solved the riddle with eyes and instincts they had overlooked. Robert Hayes could barely breathe as he watched his daughter step back from the engine, her face flushed but calm. He had seen her play with tools since she was little, often sneaking into the garage to watch him repair broken machines. But today, she had crossed a line no one could have imagined. He felt pride burning in his chest, mixed with the shock of knowing his daughter had just outsmarted people who had studied for decades. Around them, the silence was heavy, broken only by the steady rhythm of the engine. The chief engineer stepped forward, his face pale with disbelief. He had dismissed Lily earlier, even laughed when she asked to look at the machine. Now, his eyes were sharp with curiosity, searching her expression as though trying to unlock the mystery himself. "How did you do this?" he asked finally, his voice low but urgent. Lily hesitated, glancing at her father for reassurance. Then she spoke, her words simple but powerful. "Engines talk," she said softly. "You just have to listen." Everyone was searching for answers in numbers, but the sound told me what was wrong. Her explanation struck deeper than any technical manual. Engineers glanced at each other, their confidence rattled. Some shifted uncomfortably, realizing they had drowned themselves in complex theories and overlooked the basics. A younger engineer, no older than 26, muttered, "She's right. We ignored the signs because they seemed too small." The group, once proud and dismissive, now stood humbled before a teenager whose instincts carried a truth they had forgotten. It wasn't luck. It was genius, raw and unpolished, that had brought the impossible engine back to life. Robert's hand found Lily's shoulder, steadying her as he whispered, "You've shown them all, sweetheart." His voice cracked, his rough janitor's hands trembling as he held back tears. For him, this moment was not about fame or recognition but about his daughter finally being seen for who she was. She smiled shyly, still uncomfortable under the weight of so many eyes, but the pride in her gaze was undeniable. She didn't need applause, solving the puzzle had been enough. Still, the look of awe on their faces gave her strength she hadn't known she had. By the end of the day, whispers of the miracle had already escaped the building. Chicago's engineering community buzzed with the story of a janitor's daughter who had succeeded where international experts had failed. Newspapers soon caught the tale, branding it the Rolls-Royce miracle. Some questioned the truth, but those present knew they had witnessed something extraordinary. That night, as Lily and Robert walked home through the glowing Chicago streets, their lives felt forever changed. The city lights shone brighter, and for the first time, Robert didn't feel like just a janitor. He felt like the proud father of a girl who had made history.